there everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Gitte Mary, and a couple of videos ago I hinted about the fact that I was about to give a new lecture that I haven't done before. If you didn't know, I'm a sustainability online creator, but I also do public speaking events and I talk about zero waste, consumer responsibility, general greenwashing. I talk about a lot of stuff related to sustainability also in real life. And recently I gave a lecture that I haven't given before, something that's completely new both to me in talking about in general, but it's something that's been on my mind for a while, but I haven't really sat down and created a comprehensive piece of content about it. I recently did a video sort of in line with what we're about to talk about today about femininity in sustainability and femininity in zero waste, and how things like fashion and makeup and all of this, how your individual gender expression can thrive even also when you live sustainably, that you don't have to give up on these things, but you have to rethink them, reevaluate them, and do them in different ways. However, you can still wear makeup and do your hair and like fashion and be just a badass girly also on a zero waste lifestyle. Speaking of hair, this feels weird. One of the things that I have been curious about, and one of the things that I've chosen to explore even further, is the cognitive association or the link between femininity and sustainability. The reason why we see a lot more women in environmentalism overall, and why that is, why we have that association, where it comes from, and how it's being utilized both in our favor but also definitely against us. The second you start to notice it, you will see this everywhere. So actually I started my lecture talking about some of the patterns of consumption that we see differently in both men and women. I always try to be inclusive when I talk about menstrual products and makeup routines, and also in my zero waste sex ed video, but it's really difficult sometimes when the resources that you have are not that way. Anyway, so one of my talking points I just named women be shopping, because it's one of the things that we hear often. It's not even related to sustainability, it's just the fact that women buy more things than men, which assumingly is why a lot of sustainable products are marketed towards women, but there's more to it than that, because it's actually a myth that women buy more than men, or at least it's a vast simplification of our consumer patterns, because women and men buy different things. They buy vastly different things, and on average men tend to spend more on the things they buy than women. Studies also find that women tend to buy things for other people than themselves, and especially so in relationships or in households where there are both men and women, it tends to be the woman that does the shopping when it comes to gifts, gestures, all that kind of stuff. And it also tends to be the woman that buys the things for the household. More layers to why that might be. When it comes to fashion, for instance, it's definitely true that women tend to buy a lot more clothing than men. But there are several reasons for this. One of the reasons might be that clothing made for women tend to be of really poor quality, and a lot worse quality than it often is in men's clothing. So a lot of women are rebuying a lot of things because their stuff breaks. But our consumption patterns and the expectation for how men and women dress are also vastly different. For instance, I recently had a conversation with some friends about the fact that you can't really wear the same dress over and over, especially not to several different weddings. Not because men would notice that, oh, she's wearing the same dress, but other women would definitely notice. So we hold ourselves to a high standard. That means that we need to renew ourselves every single second of every day. It means that we mirror our own consumer behavior in what we see, for instance, from Hollywood, from celebrities, because they don't wear the same outfits very often. So we create this standard, or this standard is created around us, that we also cannot wear the same things over and over, which of course is bogus. Of course we can. And I love to see celebrities actually doing this as well. We could definitely see more of it though, but I digress. Studies also find that women tend to use shopping as a social activity, whereas men don't. So the things that we accumulate just tends to be different and purchased at very different times. Moving on. I also think it's fair to mention that the fast fashion industry has normalized overconsumption for especially female consumers the last 20 years. Women's fashion is a lot more fast-paced than men's. It has more trends coming in and going, and women's collections are often available for much shorter periods, nudging the target consumers into buying more clothes more frequently. During the last 20 years, we have started wearing our clothes for half as long, but we're buying twice as much. So, yeah. So why are especially sustainable products often marketed against women, even if the product has nothing to do with gender and sex? Well, that's because women represent a growth market that's bigger than China and India combined. According to a study from Harvard Business Review, women tend to be the main decision makers when it comes to purchasing basically everything in households. And by basically everything, I mean 94% of home furnishings, 92% of vacations, 91% of home purchases, 60% of automobile purchases, and 51% of consumer electronics. Women have a huge power and a really important significance when it comes to what products are being bought by consumers. Not only women, but generally households. But when I first read this, I had a really hard time believing that the only reason why we market sustainable products to women is because women make the majority of decisions when it comes to what a household is going to purchase. And there's definitely also more to it than that, so hang on. There is this concept called the eco-gender gap, and it explains that women tend to be more eco-conscious than men. It actually shows that about 71% of female consumers strive towards being more sustainable or ethical with their purchases, where only 59% of men try to do the same. So a lot of advertising companies are using this to their advantage. They know that it tends to be women that gravitate towards sustainable products. So there's both the fact that women tend to gravitate towards more eco-friendly options more than men based on the eco-gender gap. Why is that a thing? Well, there are tons of explanations as to why that might be a thing, but upbringing and general how we exist in the world might tend to be a little bit different. Again, I don't think it's a biological thing. I think it's mostly how you're perceived and how you perceive others, and yeah, how you're brought up and what you're taught, both as a child, as an adult, etc. And then the fact that women also tend to be the main decision makers results in the fact that sustainable products are primarily marketed towards women. And one of the effects of that is that we start to associate sustainability with women. It's kind of just like a bad, weird circle where our associations are in a constant loop. But it means that over time, what has happened is that we have started to link environmentalism and sustainability with women's work, which is just so much fun because we don't have a lot of other things to do. I mean, I don't, but you get it. In an article, 2 of the major eco shops in the US were asked who their consumer base tended to be. And I know this is a microscopic sample size in terms of, like the scientific method. Like, it's a study that's incredibly small because we're asking 2 different shops, but they're the main ones and we don't have a lot to choose from. So science will get off my back now. However, both these shops, one of them being Package Free Shop, they said that 90% of the people that came into their shop or bought from them online were women, even though that they have actually made a big effort to make all their products gender neutral in order to also appeal to the male consumer base. Some of the articles I read on this theorizes that one of the main reasons why women tend to be more easily persuaded into caring for the planet, or why women tend to have this interest in another rate than men, is because women tend to be more empathically brought up, or tend to have skills related to empathy that's more so developed. And it does make a lot of sense, because if we're just generalizing, and we've been generalizing for a hot second, but we're just going to continue to do that. A lot of women are learning skills and games and ways to exist in the world where you have to interact and help other people in another way perhaps than some men. So just a completely very generalized, I don't know how else to stress that example, is that a lot of girls when they grow up are playing family. And a lot of guys, when they grow up, are playing like policeman and robber. These are 2 very different social skills you're learning from those games. And this is a sample size, and this is not science. I am very much aware. I'm just trying to sort of look at my own experiences and how I have ended up caring for the planet, or what early skills and habits that has made me more prone to caring for the planet. But no matter how it's gotten that way, there's really no point in arguing against the fact that we now see a cognitive link between femininity and caring for the planet. And there are studies to back this up. A study from 2016 says something really interesting and slightly concerning. This study found that men might be motivated to avoid or even oppose green actions in order to safeguard their gender identity. Because we see this cognitive link between femininity and sustainability, some men will associate their presence in a sustainable space or doing something that's sustainable or caring for the planet, like carrying a tote bag or picking up trash, as something that makes you womanly and as such less of of a man. It's almost like toxic masculinity is ruining our planet, or at least so making it extremely difficult for consumers and industries and politicians to create real change because they're scared they're gonna look like sissies. Basically, I am so over this. So over this. This study, published in the Journal of Consumer Research, found that some men, this is a study from the US, some men in the US found that wearing a tote bag makes you look gay. You know, if that's the bar, it's gonna be a hot while until we get to the impact of fossil fuels, because you guys are not gonna believe this. What? And at this point, carrying a tote bag feels like such a neutral thing to do. It is so zero waste 2012. It's fine. I wish we could see more diversity in sustainability. I even see this in my own lectures and at my own events. It's the vast majority are women. The vast majority of people that follow me are women. The vast majority that engage with my content are women. While I was editing this video, I saw this amazing comment was posted on one of my videos on TikTok, by the way. Now, obviously, this is just one person, but how this man proved my point in one sentence just really made my day. But it's so interesting and so concerning to see that there's such a big gap between realizing that our role as consumers is really important, and in terms of saving the planet, statistically speaking, women tend to be a lot more motivated to do that, or to at least adjust their actions to reflect that wish. That means that when we're talking about sustainability, and from a more professional view, for me as someone who communicates sustainability, it's something that I can be on top of and like be mindful of, that you're not only fighting to change people's habits, which in and of itself is also really difficult, but you're also fighting a very backwards idea of gender expression, or a very backwards idea of what makes you feminine and what makes you masculine. You're also fighting against marketing. So a lot of advertisements for sustainable products are marketed towards women. Even things like electric cars, toilet paper, things that are not gendered. It makes sense from a marketing point of view why you would advertise new sustainable makeup products to women. But that's not what's happening. It's everything. Things that are directly unsustainable, or things that are actively opposing sustainability, are often marketed towards men, and that reinforces this stereotype that doing something else make you seem like less of a man. I have heard so many of my friends, and I've seen so many people online talk about the fact that they don't really feel like they can go vegetarian or plant-based because they will be perceived as less of a man, as less masculine if they don't eat meat. Like, this link between eating meat and being masculine is so integrated into our brains. It's extremely hard to work against, and we see this both with people reinforcing it for each other, but we also definitely see it in marketing. Just any Carl's Jr. ad, things that involve a lot of often even poor quality meat, big steaks, big patties, huge burgers, are often appealing to a more masculine audience. Advertisers are extremely aware of how to appeal to men and women in different ways. And there's so many other ways of doing that than showing a woman or showing a man in the ad. There's so many ways of using symbols, colors, language that makes it more so appealing to women or to men. And this is something that we also have to be aware of, or also have to fight against when we're talking about sustainability. Anyway, I think this is a hugely interesting subject, slightly concerning, very concerning. I would also love to hear from you guys. Have you experienced this in real life, or seen friends, family, or strangers react in this way when confronted with sustainability actions? Or have you perhaps had these thoughts yourself? Please comment down below and share your experiences. There are no wrong answers. Let me know if you think this is interesting, or if you want me to talk about some of the ads that I've seen recently that are more appealing to men or to women, or like what's happening in this field, or how we can get the guys on board. Let me know. Thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day, and I will see you guys next time. Take really good care of yourselves. Until then, bye. Thank you so much for watching this video, and also a special thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys help me create green, zero waste content, and I love you guys. You can find the links to my social media accounts down below, and the link to my Patreon on this screen. Bye!